Welcome to Earth Empaths.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Hi. Well, it's already been a very exciting morning, hasn't it? I always do this. It's like we're a group of friends, and we're a group of people that have found each other in life. And I'm Christine, and that's Claudia, Niels, and Lily. And we've, through contacts with each other and other people that we know, some are also known out there in the what we loosely call the alternative media field, have been having series of conversations and sort of, for me, I'll speak for myself, it's been a process of self-discovery. Who am I, individuated spirit, within a unified field of information? And what is that individuated spirit? And what is the unified field? And in all of that, we all know that we're in a massive field of consciousness or intelligence, we could call it. Some of it is organic, natural, we could put that term on it, expansive, life promoting, life giving, and some of it is artificially induced, is life taking and vampiric. And in all of that, we can put all of the things that are coming into the human consciousness field, everything from the secret space program to what's happening within the governments of the world, the purpose of religion, and all the things that we are, as a collaborative human consciousness, recalling about what happened here on planet Earth and how did each of us participate in it, how are we participating it in the now moment, and what is it that we want to really become or are becoming, whether maybe we want to or not. So anyways, that being said, is from my point of view, and also having been involved with certain personalities within the alternative media field, private conversations, group conversations, and watching what's happening, seeing quite a bit of dissension at this moment. And how is that being promoted? What's promoting it? And how do we as consciousness help others see it and not buy into it? Because anybody that's moving into dissension right now, in my opinion, is being operated. They're in an operation or they're in a program. And they don't know that. And so they think it's them as consciousness, and they're not seeing what's behind the scenes, pulling the strings. And these are very subtle fields now. We're not in the, in your face, boots on your face sort of thing. We're in a very subtle field of manipulation at this moment. And so out of all of that, saying that, we had a conversation privately along that line and decided that it would be valuable to record something today. So, anybody else? I know, Niels, I would love to hear your thoughts on it. Lily, I know you have some, so let's go with you for a moment. And you have no mic.
Oh, so I go first? No, I would allow Niels speak first because I had them.
Okay. So yeah, Niels, I mean, you could actually, with what you've been, studying and putting together, why don't we follow your lead today?
Okay, well, hopefully I can kind of put this into a very large philosophical or spiritual context, as that's what I like to do. I ended up with a couple pages of notes this morning because I realized I had a whole lot of things I wanted to touch on. So hopefully it'll come across as somewhat coherent. The title I'm working on today, I'm calling it Our Basic Orientation, kind of the stance that we take in the world, in reality. And I'm looking at it from the point of living from the inside out as the creator of our reality, living from internal creation, as opposed to reacting to external reality, getting its hooks into us, and us being completely off center and being tossed about by an external reality that seems to be in control, whereas we are actually the ones that are in control if we could live from our own center and accept that role of being the creator of our own reality. I'm going to start with a video that I saw recently. It was circulating around Facebook, at least in my newsfeed. I saw it a couple times last week. And it's just a short little video clip. I think it's just over 2 minutes long, almost 3 minutes. It's by Alan Wallace, who is a Tibetan Buddhist scholar and consciousness researcher. And he was giving a lecture. And the title of this short little video was Frozen Time and the Observer Participant. And he made a really interesting point. If we regard the universe as a quantum field, a quantum view of the universe, that basically it is all potential, is what the quantum field is. And nothing happens in the field of potential. All possibilities exist simultaneously, but the only time that anything happens, and when time begins, is when the observer participant is brought into that field. That's what creates reality. The extrapolation of that, and which was actually Alan Wallace's own conclusion, is that we all live in our own universe. We are all the center of the universe that we ourselves create. We each create our own experience. Every sentient being within that's participating in the quantum field is creating their own universe, and all of those universes are entangled. And that entanglement we could look at as where my reality overlaps with your reality and overlaps with everyone else's reality. We can call that consensus reality, and that's what we would label as the objective universe. But it's just where our individual realities overlap, would be the simplistic way to look at it. Okay, so I wanted to then talk about the God program, which I think is the ultimate program. And what I mean by the God program is the idea that God is somewhere out there, that God is something external to us, and that we find God somehow outside of ourselves. Well, in what I just said, I'm equating God as being the quantum field, that God is all possibility. And I guess it's a personal choice of each individual to decide, how do you have a relationship with that quantum field? Is that something that you find outside of yourself through external objects or rituals or whatever? Or is that something that you find in yourself, that is a personal inner relationship? For myself, it only makes sense that if I'm going to contact the field of all possibility, it exists within me. It's not something that I go chasing for out in the universe. And I think that's only something that someone can come to that conclusion on their own, in however way they can make that conclusion. But I definitely am an advocate for the internal connection to God. So as the creators of our own unique experience, I also wanted to tie it all into that, I think we all kind of feel that there's a separation between internal and external, and there isn't really a separation there. If we think about all of our thoughts and feelings and beliefs, that's what informs our behavior, our actions in the world. So all of our thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, whatever we're carrying inside, is directly connected to the external. And that to even think that they're separate, I think would be an illusion. And we kind of have a tendency, because we've been so externally directed, we have a tendency to discount our internal reality and to make it somehow lesser to the external reality. And I'd like to try and flip that view. And I think ultimately we want the internal and the external to be a balanced exchange. So it's kind of a 50-50 thing. But since we've been living so long, being influenced from the external has been influencing our internal realities and kind of dictating our experience, I think it's incumbent upon us to try and flip that around and live primarily from the inside out, so that we can try and balance this reality back to a more 50-50, where it's an equal exchange between the inner and the outer, because they are actually one. So in our relationship with God or the quantum field, we're in a partnership. It's an equal partnership. I don't really subscribe to this idea that we are just little sparks of God, or we are parts of God, or that we were created by God. I believe that we are equal partners with God, and we are the ones that are creating this universe where God is providing the materials to do so, but it's under our own inner direction. Now, where all this is coming from in the last few months is I've been personally thinking about how I'm somewhat different from all the people that I'm meeting in the alternative community as we're having these kinds of discussions amongst other people. I'm always hearing complaints of being attacked, that people are being attacked from the outside. And I've been in this alternative consciousness community for over 20 years. I wrote my first book in 1994. It's been in print since 1996. I've been out there for a long time, but in all honesty, I don't ever feel attacked. And I recently was just wondering, well, why am I different? Why is everyone else saying that they're feeling attacked? And that just never really comes up for me. And what I concluded was that I have a different internal basic orientation with the universe, and that is that I live from the inside out. Everything is really according to my agenda, that I am the creator of my universe. I am the center, and I'm in charge. So whatever comes at me from the external universe, whatever I'm presented with, I'm going to filter it through my own personal center and decide how I relate to that and how it serves my growth. And I think the basic stance is most people are looking to fit into an external system. They want to belong to something outside of themselves. Whereas mine is the opposite. Everything out there exists for how it can serve me and my growth. Now, I know that sounds like I may be falling into solipsism, that I'm the most important thing in the universe. Well, I am the most important thing in my universe. But how you in your universe relate to me, that's up to you. You're in charge of that. And I don't really put much stock into the whole solipsistic argument, because it's easy for me to recognize that you are as real as I am, but I recognize that you're in the center of your universe. I'm in the center of my universe. Well, at least we should be in the center, I guess. Can't guarantee that we are. Let's see. Then I wrote down a little note here about control. And if we feel we're being controlled, control is not necessarily a bad thing, but if it's coming from the outside, control is a bad thing. Control can be perfect if it's self-control. And that's just I just wanted to add that little thing about, if control is the issue, well, we're looking for self-control, and external control can never be perfect. The only way that an external system can control perfectly would be to put us back into frozen time where nothing's happening. You'd have to basically just stop the universe. Now everything's static. Now it's under control. But the only control that we can really hope for that's perfect is perfect self-control. So control has to come from the inside, in my view. Oh, I underlined a whole sentence here. We must own everything we allow to persist in our reality. That we own everything. Everything that comes into our field of awareness, we get to decide whether it gets to stay there and how we're going to relate to it. It's up to us to decide. And if it doesn't belong in our reality, we have every right to just kick it out. It's gone. It doesn't serve my personal growth. So I'll just decide to get rid of it. I will not pay any more attention to it. Now, the only caveat there is that if something then still persists and you've banished it from your reality, nope, this doesn't involve me, but somehow it still gets into the back of your mind, or it's coming up in your feelings, well, then that means that you have to actually deal with this thing, because it has some right to be in your reality, but it comes from you. How am I going to deal with this? And it has to make sense to you how you're going to deal with whatever external comes into your reality and persists. Along the lines of we must own everything, I also wrote down that we need to especially own our emotions. And this was something that I was recently just thinking about this idea of feeling attacked and feeling an overwhelming sense of negative emotions. And my thought on it, and this is just me speculating, if we live a lifetime where we're in the habit of pushing our negative emotions away, we're basically giving that energy out there. We're saying, I feel shitty. I don't want to feel shitty. Pushing it out. I just get out of my field. And what you're doing there really, I think, is inviting something external to take that energy. You don't want it, so something else does. And it's all too happy to just say, oh, okay, negative emotions, that's food for me, and off you go. So when we start on a journey of healing, we want to reclaim everything that's ours. So when we start reclaiming those emotions, if we do things like making declarations of sovereignty or something like that, and then suddenly we feel overwhelmed with emotion, it's like, oh my God, I got attacked. I'm questioning, is that an attack, or is that just your own emotions that you've been pushing away for a lifetime are suddenly coming back to you, and now you have to integrate them, and it feels like an attack? That it's just part of the spiritual growth journey, that if you're going to bring back that negative emotion and own it yourself, it might be uncomfortable at first, and it could be perceived as an attack. Just my personal speculation, insight on that. I'm just guessing, though. Let's see here. I already said that we are reality filters, that everything filters through us, and we decide what's allowed to persist in our own reality. If something external triggers us, we heal it internally. We do that ourselves. If it resonates with our deepest story, we express it. And I guess I could talk a little bit about expression, and that's part of the owning everything in your reality. You have to give everything some sort of an acknowledgement. And I'm all about creative expression. I mean, I do it every day, every chance I get. I mostly am a writer, but sometimes it'll just be talking to myself. I'll tell myself a nice little story while I'm walking in the woods, just to affirm the things that I want to have in my field in the moment right now, and just express everything that wants to be expressed. And I think that that's a very healthy thing to do. And especially if somebody is trying to express from the inside out, you want to live your life from the inside outward as a creator, express everything that it occurs to you to express, put it out there. And even if you're the only one that's listening to it, it's sometimes good to hear your own voice expressing what matters to you. Let's see now.
Can I add to that a little bit, Neil?
Absolutely. You go right ahead.
Because I also was, looking into that, and it's been also something that I've been contemplating a lot about, is owning our reality and how that whole thing plays into us being the creator, being the responsible creator. Because if you don't own your reality, you're a responsible creator.
Mm-hmm.
Because we are creators of our reality. I think that one right now, that program, that there is some other creator, like you were talking about, Niels, the God thing, the God program, and all of the other copies of that program, which are that the God or the creator is outside of you. The only reason for that program is so that the dead-like consciousness or the parasitic consciousness can have a way in. Because if we, the one thing, if we take full responsibility, or if we become a responsible creator, meaning you take full responsibility for your creation and everything that is in your field that doesn't belong there. You don't try to destroy, because you destroy yourself. You transmute, transform, and own it. And if we don't, that's like what you said, Niels, it opens up our field for that external parasitic consciousness to be there, using that, what we don't own about reality, to stay attached to us. For as long as we keep putting everything outside of ourselves, or one thing, even if it's one thing in your reality that we don't own, it's an opening. It's like, you know what, I don't want it, so parasitic consciousness, here it is. You attach here and just, feed on it. That's basically what we are saying when we put responsibility on everything or anyone outside of ourselves. It's just, this is what we're doing. But the thing is, we need to understand, by taking that action, the parasite that takes that emotions or whatever it is, it doesn't go away. It still stays in your field with the parasite attached to it. That's why it needs transformation and transmuting. That's why denial of it or suppressing it never works.
Mm-hmm. Can I jump in, Lily, and take a little bit more of what you're saying? Because what I'm following the energy of your words and I'm seeing it in a visual sense is that when you're doing that, you're projecting your own darkness out into the world because you're not dealing with it. So what happens is these parasitical entities, and some of them are, let's call them bugs, we can think of them as AI, or they're inorganic life forms that can only exist off of our energy. They are now so attached to you that they are so busy projecting onto other people around you your own darkness that you're not dealing with, and you are not aware of it. And so what happens, from what I understand, is then you get fed back to you from the apparent outside, the attack vector, right? And then you go, but you don't realize that you're actually covered in your periphery with these parasitical beings. Call them beings, bugs, AI, mimickers, whatever name we want to attach to them right now. And I think this is the real meat or the juice of what we want to really try to express today. The only other thing I really want to say is about ownership, because I actually was meditating and I'm really going into a contemplation about the word ownership. Now, there is the ownership of my universe and my own emotions, my own thought patterns, my thought forms. I must own those. And yet, the unified potential field that you express, the quantum field, I have no ownership of. And so that's the inverse aspect of it. What people are fighting for, their information source, their book, they got it, when they're really just tapped into a quantum field that you cannot claim ownership of. But you can, and you must, with what you do with that. And so that's where the buying and selling, I'm selling information. You know, this is why this is a consciousness war happening right now. This is why within the, I don't know what to call, because it's not even alternative media any longer. You can't call it that. You can't, because now
circus.
I mean, it actually has now been consumed. That media field, for the most part, with a few shining examples that are different, actually have projected their darkness out. All those people out there that are saying that they have inside information and that they, are being attacked constantly, they're buying into it. So really, you can see how this mechanism operates, that they are now plastered with these bug-like consciousness, or this AI predatory consciousness, and it's now projecting out into the field. And this is the point that I think that we are trying to find a verbal expression of, so that other people can start to see that without pointing fingers, without creating dissension, without making somebody wrong, because that just feeds into that field too. And that's that ownership of responsibility. It's very interesting.
And the predatory consciousness, it can only survive through this the intellectual game of light, of binary field, wrong and right. So it can only have sort of a field. It only plays in the field of mental body that is projecting into an emotional body, And so all those intellectual games are keep being perpetuated or fed in alternative communities, and or alternative media, as we wanted to call it, or alternative circus, as I would like to call it now. So what happens is, for that consciousness to stay in control or to have a life, because it can only be attached, it's a parasite, okay? It has to have a host. So that right and wrong is just gonna, that thinking, that binary field, they keeps wanting to keep everybody in alternative media right now. You see what's happening? That's what it's doing. It's just dividing and putting against each other, which is not a duality like Niels saying, but how you say it, Niels?
I'm sorry.
Are we talking about the new term that we coined? The omniary perspective?
I was wondering how to pronounce that.
Yeah, omniary.
Omniary.
Which recognizes all perspectives as being valid.
Exactly.
I was going to get to that later in what I was presenting. That I will tie that in as well. That ties in.
So I'll pause. I'll pause for now.
Okay. There was one thing that I forgot from page 1. We're basically through page 1 of my notes, so that went pretty quick. Actually, that's not bad. One thing that I forgot was to put this in the context of my own personal life, in that my life has basically been broken up into 3 sections. Originally, when I was a child, I had truly an idyllic childhood. There was no real major trauma for the first 12, 13 years of my life. Couldn't have asked for it to be any better than it was. I mean, minor little scrapes and bruises, but that's it. And during that time, I don't know, thousands of times, my mother always came up with the phrase, "Niels, you live in your own world." And as we were talking about before, and I just always took that as a statement of fact. Yes, I do. And it's wonderful here. Then the second section of my life was from age 13 to about 26, 27. So another, 13-year chunk, something like that, where I was completely externally focused. And what happened there is I fell in love. I mean, what better reason to shift my focus from being the imaginative creator of my own little universe to, suddenly I'm in love. And I was absolutely infatuated and so utterly focused on this external pursuit. It was the most important thing. It was absolutely central to all of my thoughts. Everything that I was doing was all suddenly centered around this external pursuit. And it went so far as to completely erode my identity that I didn't even at that time think of myself as Niels anymore. I thought of myself as the boy who's in love with blank. That's how I identified myself, is that I'm the guy who's in love with this external thing. And that almost made it impossible to navigate in the multiverse. And I'm using the term multiverse just to mean all of our each individual universes gathered together and entangled. That's the multiverse. And to try and navigate through a multiverse that involves trillions of sentient beings, when your center is somewhere out there externally rather than being in the center of your own universe, makes it almost impossible. And I can definitely say that section of my life was the only section of my life where things were horrible. I was in suicidal ideation. I was not a happy camper at all. I was a binge alcoholic. For 8 years, I was falling down drunk most of the time. I was mostly a dysfunctional human being. And the only way I ever pulled out of it was to return to that childhood innocence of being the center of my own universe and create and just say, fuck it, I am God. I am the God of this universe, and I'm going to decide what's proper for my health and growth, and that it falls only to me. And I let go of the external pursuit. I mean, if something good comes of it, it's going to come through me, not me running around the universe trying to chase something down, because that, as I found, does not work. And it just throws me into complete turmoil where I don't even know what's going on, really. So since the age of 28, which is the year that I wrote my first book, that process was an extremely intense process, writing my first book. That set me right back in the center. And my butt's been basically glued to the throne in the center of my universe ever since. And I feel lucid and coherent again and functional, and I'm not depressed. And as I said, since then, I don't feel attacked. There's nothing really attacking me. And if it does, it pretty much bounces off. I mean, I get to decide whether, if there's an attack, is it going to affect me? I get to decide that. Okay.
Mhm.
I just wanted to add that.
Can I add just one? I won't make it too long, but if one stops and pauses with what you're saying long enough, Niels, to take it in, right? Because you're speaking from a very personal perspective of your universe, and I speak from my perspective of my universe and being in the center. My central sun is within me. And so what I want to just underline here is when we start to talk about collaborative or collective consciousness, that when more of us get to that place, that's where peace resides. It doesn't reside in an exterior. It doesn't reside by taking away guns. It doesn't reside anywhere else. It's within that. And what I'm seeing is from your first example is that when we're emitting or we're radiating from our universal center, that amount of peace, those overlaid entanglements are weaving another reality. Not because we're doing it from an ego identity source of like, I am doing this, I am God, but because in a very harmonic, organic, natural way, those overlays now start to harmonize. And so I just wanted to bring that in because of the way I introduced this panel today of how we as consciousness, we as humans can become that which everybody is idealizing, but very, very few are obtaining right now. So that's it. So thank you.
Very nicely put. Yeah, that was good. Great. So next I'm shifting gears in my read of the time period that we're entering right now. And what I feel is that we're heading into a time of maximum chaos. At that point of absolute maximum chaos is maybe it's here already or it's just around the corner. That's what we're heading into. My personal take. You can agree or disagree. What I want to say about maximum chaos is in complex systems, there's a fellow by the name of Ilya Prigogine, and he's a Belgian scientist who was a Nobel laureate who did a lot of study on evolutionary theory. And he basically showed that evolution isn't a slow, progressive, step-by-step growth process. Evolution is more of a breaking down of systems where things become more and more chaotic. And out of the chaos, a new order spontaneously emerges almost instantly. Either that or the entire system collapses in total destruction. The key factor that determines which way it's going to go is whether it's an open system or a closed system. A closed system is unable to get rid of, well, what he calls entropy, or just the garbage. The stuff that doesn't serve that particular system anymore, if it can be shunted outside of the system, if it can be gotten rid of, that's dissipating entropy, and then the system will spontaneously evolve into a new higher order on its own. It'll internally self-organize, basically. Human beings are ideally an open system, that we are able to say, this in my reality doesn't serve me, I can get rid of it. And it's gone. It's not part of my reality any longer, and we can do that. That's how we are open systems. When we cling to ideas that are unsustainable, that's when the system's going to collapse in total chaos. So we really just need to be open systems and figure out what serves us and what doesn't. That's just basic modern evolutionary theory, if I can be scientific.
You?
During the time of maximum chaos that I think we're approaching, that is going to leave us in the most vulnerable position that we've ever been in collectively. It's when we're experiencing total chaos, that everything is breaking down around us. That's when all of humanity is the most vulnerable, and when we'll be the most tempted to reach at something coming from the outside. Mm-hmm. That's where the Savior program is most operative, is when we're in total distress. We think the world is falling apart. It's coming to an end. The Savior comes along and says, no worries, we'll fix it up. And then the Savior can tell us exactly what our new reality should be. So if this time of maximum chaos is coming, it's a time for maximum vigilance, that we don't fall for the Savior meme. This is when we really want to assert what we know ourselves internally to be right and true for us, and stick with it. Have integrity in the time of chaos. I had a little note here about the Savior programs. True help always empowers the one being helped. It helps you to stand on your own 2 feet. It never, ever fosters a dependency. Here, lean on me, I'll take care of everything. You don't want that kind of help. Humanity doesn't want that kind of help. We want to be taught, if somebody has something to teach us, we want to be taught how to stand on our own 2 feet and how to navigate reality ourselves. And if somebody's offering something other than that, I hope we have the sense not to bite. On that note, I just wanted to hit up a couple of things, like I wrote down ascension, disclosure, and service to self versus service to others. So I just wanted to briefly mention these things. To me, ascension is the most hierarchical term in the modern vernacular. It screams hierarchy, ascension, higher, lower, you know. And it is an external program. I honestly don't even know what it means to ascend. It's been talked about for so long, and I still honestly don't have a clear definition of what is ascension. And I don't know who can even give me that definition. Associated with that is this idea of raising our frequency. Again, I don't know what that means. If we are simply to raise our frequency, and we've been hearing this for decades, right? I have anyways. I've heard this idea that we just need to raise our frequencies for decades already. And if that's true, I wonder why we don't have any technology, a simple handheld device would do, where I can wake up every day and measure my frequency. And then I can go about my day, and at the end of the day, I can measure my frequency again and see whether the things I did today raised my frequency, lowered my frequency, or kept it the same. I mean, if this is really the operative thing that we should be doing, why don't we have the technology that's allowing us to do this? To me, it's pretty suspect. And nobody can really explain what do we mean by raising our frequency. I'm going to return to that later in terms of, well, what if not raising our frequencies, what should we be doing? I'll return to that later, though. So moving on to disclosure. Whatever's being disclosed, I'd have to assume that we're just going to get a whole bunch of new data, new evidence. And it's up to us to do with that data what we think is right for us. We have to come up with our own story with disclosure. Give us the data, give us the facts as you understand them, whoever's going to give us this disclosure. But it's still up to us to figure out what those facts mean to us personally and how we're going to relate to them. I'm cautioning here against buying into someone else's story of here's the facts and here's what they mean. And how do I verify that? How do I know that that's how the facts are put together? That's up to me to decide how the facts are put together. And that's actually how science works. Science says, give me the raw data. And from the raw data, I'll go through the experiments myself. And if I come to the same conclusions that you did, well, then your science is validated by my science. But it doesn't work by somebody just saying, here's the facts and here's how they fit together, trust me. That's not what we want for disclosure. And I hope we have the sense again to not accept that kind of a disclosure. And then briefly, just on the service to self versus service to others, to me, that's always sounded like a false dichotomy. Why does this division exist in the universe, supposedly? And this is for our highest good, that we have to be either on the service to self side or the service to others side of the fence, primarily, and so much is dependent on that. Well, what about service to the whole? And I am as much a part of the multiverse as anyone else is, and we are all on equal footing. So why should I sacrifice self to serve others, or why should others be sacrificed to serve me, when it's just we all serve the whole? We're all one integrated thing to begin with anyways. So I'm hoping that we can eventually get past this dichotomy of service to self versus service to others. I've never viewed the universe in that way. I've always seen that it's I have to serve myself in order to be able to serve others. The only reason that I can speak here today is because I've done my own shit, that I can speak coherently. 30 years ago, I was in my bad phase. I wouldn't be able to have this talk. I wouldn't have been able to communicate anything of value to anyone at that time. That's that. So, anyone got anything there?
Yes, Neil. Of course we do. On the ascension, we can try to go and ask Pope Francis. He seemed to know what ascension is. He just declared that Maria Magdalena has ascended.
Excuse me while I laugh.
Yeah, I know, I laugh too. I found that funny, how the new age in alternative communities are all about ascension, and there you go, the connection to that word. And for anyone to even to ignore that, I just find it that people, I mean, this is the terms that Pope uses. What is that system? I mean, why do people in New Age community hanging on to that word and trying to go about it by the same hierarchical system that is set for all the religions? It's the same. It's the same copy of same stuff. And so if we understand that we are the center, how does ascending out of your center a good thing? Because if you have to ascend, you got to get out of here. What they're actually want to do with ascension is, because it's always up, you got to go up, is what they're trying to do is keep you right here in the binary field, your consciousness locked in there, full of parasites that making you think that you are not good enough. to be a creator of your world. But you are. You are. And that's the thing that I don't understand, why people don't see it, that word being co-opted and used by religions. I don't know. The fact that Pope Francis had claimed Maria Magdalena as the ascended saint now, I would never use that word again, ever. Because it has the whole construct of religion attached to it. That's a belief system. So that word in itself has become a belief system, which keeps you here, keeps your consciousness locked in the mental body, and you can't anchor it in your center. If you want ascension, and every person that I've heard on the planet explaining ascension, that it's something that you need to attain, like Niels said, it's hierarchical. From the very word of it is hierarchical. And just from that, for people to be attached to that, you're attached to the same construct. It's just what it is. That's my opinion.
Well, I mean, if you speak of ascension or ascended masters or I am ascending, you have already bought into duality, lock, step, and bear. You know, it's just like that, because that says there's a differentiation. Where for me, it's more the centered ability of the being more integrated. I can navigate. I need to be able to be free. That means I want to navigate all realities as I see them. And that may be the underworld, because within that underworld structure also is a huge amount of information, right? So to me, ascension is basically going to a false heaven. It's some false ideology of a false God that's made a heaven, right? And so people that are buying into that, what they're really doing is saying, I want out of this reality. I don't want to own it. I don't want to clean up my own personal mess here. And they believe that somehow they're going to be able to make this leap into some sort of ascended state of being, which really nobody knows what that is. And to say that Mary Magdalene, who is and always has been, because she is an archetypical being and an avatar that's always been, and no pope on any planet in any universe has the right to call her and say that he says she ascended. She's laughing because she's laughing through me, and she's laughing through Lillian, through Niels, and through Claudia right now. You know, she's not ascended, she's everywhere, just as Christ consciousness is everywhere present for everyone. So, I mean, the whole thing to me just falls down on its own weight. So, ascension? I don't know. You know, that's my take on it. You got me going with Mary Magdalene here. But anyways, I mean, and so, right, it is a religiosity. It is a false creation. It's a falsification of life to say ascended. How do you ascend from life?
Ascend actually is, because this is the thing, if we're going to go into that a little bit, and that's something that I have to just do, maybe start doing my videos again. But I'm going to go into that. But the religion thing and all of the contradictions in it, they're so visible right now that it is a great time to talk about it and bring that to people's attention. How idiotic it is, the whole thing. Because, I mean, just by that action, what Pope did, and her being ascended, if we look at the whole Christian religion, especially all Christian religions, what happened is that the copy of it, it actually celebrates death. It does not, it's anti-life. That's why it's anti-Christ. All Christian religions on the planet are anti-Christ. because they are anti-life, because what they celebrate, even if you take the Bible and you think it's true, there is things in there that tell you straightforward that you have to celebrate Christ's life, or, the living field. But what religions did is they put him on that cross dead. Everything in church, everywhere you see, it's death, because it's a dead person on the cross. And they made it to be like, that's the saving grace. Death was not, even by the story that's in the Bible, what's messed up, was not about his death. His lesson was his life. But what all religions do is they worship death. Because this is, so anybody that's alive, by stepping to religion, die as a consciousness. So it's death. So what we do is, what people do with religions is they actually worship death. They pray for more death. They want death. Everything's about death. So when he says, because Jesus is dead to them, right? In all religions, Jesus is dead, even though he ascended. Not living, not here on the planet. Christ consciousness is dead in the view of religion, all the religions on the planet, right? So now he's just branded the consciousness, which is a feminine consciousness of Christ consciousness, Maria Magdalena, that's what it means to us, right? So he branded it as dead. Because it's ascended, just like Jesus, it's dead. And didn't even tell us if it's going to come back or not. This is how tricky their programming is. Because to us here, to a human being that is pro-life, with its living field, that's what it says to me. What he basically saying is, heaven had harvested that energy. And I say, nope, that's a big fucking lie. It's not harvested. We're here. Mm-hmm. And that energy is alive within us. And this is why they keep doing that shit. Is to keep killing us. To keep killing us so we become dead. Because through religion, that's what it is. We're dead.
Not only through religion. I mean, look at the legal system. They kill us the moment, we get the birth certificate. That's the consciousness gone. Yep. We become a piece of paper, according to them. So, yes, very anti-life.
All of it is anti-life. And they're still questioning if it's anti-Christ or not. It is anti-Christ, all of it. It's not a question anymore. The only question it's for dead souls. Those that they have to recognize that they're dead. Because they've been worshiping death and they've been waiting for death. They've been asking for death. And I think it's because the problem is because this parasitic God, or the parasite that is God, is dead. It is not alive. And I've said this a long time ago, because it's not living. It's dead. It cannot create. It can only live as a parasite, meaning it has to have a living host. Somebody
it's never had any life.
Mm-hmm.
It's anti-life.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and with that, right now we have this specific race of souls, right? And especially the ones that are insect related. Those are the parasitic souls as well. They're dead. And so.
And yet, I mean, you're absolutely right here. But I want to say, we can see them as enemies because they're anti-life, or we can see them as tools that we can use to grow out of our own stupor. And I'm always in favor of not seeing anyone or anything as an enemy, because that school of thought, by its very definition, is anti-life.
Yeah, and we have to find a way to understand this consciousness, and then, because it's here in our reality, it is entangled here on this planet. So, like, I know that we can't just throw anything away, so we have to transform, transmute, and find a way how to heal, because
Yes.
it's part of our collective.
It's, I think,
part of our collective. Even those that carry the souls, they are part of our collective.
yes, and I think it's detecting their characteristics. Like for example, what I find absolutely anti-life is the concept of reward and punishment, because that is not human. But this particular force you mention, they are very much driven by reward and punishment. But the moment we recognize it, we can take a step back and say, no, this is not how it works. This is not what's going on in my universe.
You know, just to add with what Niels was saying, and you're saying here, Claudia, is that what most people are still afraid of, and much of it's still on the unconscious level, is the fear of punishment. This has been so embedded within the human psyche that, and we don't really, until you step through your fear, until you walk through that gate and step right into it, then you realize that all of that is driven by a false reality that has no bearing on you, the living light being. And yet that's the door where most folks are sort of stuck right now, you know. And so because they are afraid of punishment, of going to jail, what happens if I do this, what if I check out from the matrix, all of it across the board, right? And of course, then we have this massive, you know, militarized police force on most nations now that are going to make sure that you're in a fear of punishment. And so, you know, that's where I see where Niels was saying is that the ultimate chaos point that we're coming to in this breakdown, as it is going, I see it coming too. I've been feeling it for a long time. I think we all have. But that also is a golden moment. It's an absolute rich golden moment.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's the chance.
Right. Right. And so not to lose sight of that, but see, that's where that fear, that underlying fear, if there's anything that I feel that enters into anybody's consciousness, it is fear of letting go. Because there's all these false identities that people hang on to all the time. I'm a this, I'm a that, I come from here, this is my lineage, this is my bloodline, I'm a hybrid, I'm an ascended master, I come from the Pleiades, all of those identities, all of those identities that give us a sense of self, because we're not self-generating. So we are dependent on this outward focused view of this false identity, and it's not that hard once you do it. It's very hard to get through it, But and that's all I can ever say to anybody. Walk through your fear. Walk right through the center of it, because that's where the central soul self resides. And at that point, like Niels says, there's no attack. You know, and I had to come to that I went through years of feeling attacked.
Yeah, me too.
To only come to the realization that until I claimed the ownership of my own self, would I ever be able to stop these attacks? Because they were coming from me.
Yeah.
It was my own insecurity.
I am the law, and that counts for everyone.
Exactly.
And just quickly, I would add that in order to be attacked, you have to enter into a victim mentality. That's the only way you can be attacked.
Yes.
You have to. And then people bank, and I mean monetarily bank on that victim mentality all across the board, from the Pope, from the religions, from the New Age gurus, and from the insiders that are, you know, on the inside supposedly telling us up to the outside. All of that is a system that they're banking on. They're taking home money. They're in, and then those are the ones that get most agitated when they feel like you've taken something from them, when they're reading an informational field that we all have access to. There is not a soul on this planet or in any universe that does not have access to the same information.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I see the inside outside as if like a sail with a very thin membrane. Once it gets clear, the information, it's a transference, it's a dance, it's a movement. It becomes very, very fluid, right? And so I can't claim ownership. The minute I claim ownership of anything from that information field, I have built a box. I have built a wall. I've built a thickness, and I'm, you know, and that's where ego will kick in. And I see that happening in that information field, because people feel like their livelihood, their total existence, their safety, their identity is all locked into that ownership of something that is actually universal. How can you own the omniverse? How can you own Mary Magdalene, you know, or Christ consciousness, when it's everywhere present? You know, so this is and when I think I'm speaking to somebody that might be hearing my voice, I want to say what you said, Niels, in my own way. If you're listening to somebody, that's fine. That's great. We all listen to other people, right? We all listen to other sources of information from an apparent outside point of view. But the question, the line I always ask, is this empowering? Is this giving me tools, keys, knowledge that I need to be empowered? And can I transfer that to somebody else freely? And so it's just like, that's why it's so interesting to watch in this circus out there right now. I think you called it a comic book, Lily, of people that are buying and selling the story, right? Is that those that rush to the you know, I'm going to defend this person, or, you know, I'm going to, all of that. How do we as consciousness start to open that up, so that people aren't so triggered, so reactionary, so feeling of it's going to come from disclosure outside ourselves? Everything's already known, really. It's already known. We just are the consciousness that are recalling it.
Well, I think that a lot of things that have been coming up and becoming visible, that the parasitic consciousness wants to be part of our reality. And this is the biggest battle right now, is that it is trying to project enough programs in people to stay relevant, to have a food source, to have a host. And if humanity right now decides that we're gonna take self-responsibility and take control as a collective humanity of our creation here on this planet, well, what happens to this parasitic consciousness? So for its extinction, if it doesn't have a host. So would you think that it would do everything and anything? And it would resort to all kinds of tricks just to stay relevant to collective human consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and this is, I think, a lot of people in alternative communities do not recognize. They do not recognize that there are people in the communities, and a lot of times people that are running the communities are heavily bogged by this consciousness, heavily. And the thing is that, like you were saying, Christine, because they are so attached to that external something that they might have had a connection to, or something like, you know, I'm a Pleiadian, or I'm this, I'm that, or I am a contactee, or I commune with these beings, or I commune with, with Akashic record on the planet. And so now, I know everything. You know how they do that? Well, those are people that are driven by this parasitic consciousness without knowing that that's what it is. Because in a lot of cases, that thing that, oh, you're so special, you're Pleiadian, it is actually lies that the parasite is telling a person. They're not. You are a human soul. First, right here, right now, in this moment, you're the center of your reality. You're in a human body. You're a human soul. Period.
Mm-hmm.
All of that is secondary, all of the rest of the stuff. And so this is where we are running into problem, I think, a lot. And a lot of people will run into problem. And this is also going to add to intentional chaos. Because right now it is a period where we can get out. The door is open. Every one of us can make a choice right now to be a human soul. And so, but this consciousness is not going to make it easy for us.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to make it easy. Because it's survival for it.
Right.
You said do all that stuff. And it's going to try, and even the more you find it out, and as we've seen it lately in alternative media, the more you reveal it, the more it freaks out, the more it starts doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And the more it just keeps reprogramming itself. You tell it, now you explain about ascension, it's going to come up with something else. You call it a savior before, it's going to come up with different word that means exactly the same, because it wants to piggyback on a human being. It's a parasite. It's a parasite.
Mm-hmm. Really, earlier when you were speaking also, and I know this is something Claudia and I have experienced in sessions with some other women on Earth Empaths, the intelligence that's operating within, call it the quantum field, call it within the Earth body, the embodied Earth intelligence that we're all part of, that we've touched on the idea, and I know you've expressed it, that she is matter, which is the material world in which we are here, and we are in human souls. It doesn't matter how many other incarnations and other planetary beings we've been. We're in a human soul packet right now on a planet going through a huge transition. one that many people say has never been done before. So what I've seen, and I forget sometimes, but I've seen that this intelligent being that's here incarnated with us and us with her knows exactly what is necessary to transmutate this parasite, because it's not enough just to eject it from this reality, because if we do that, it's going to continue. It's almost as if she, in that intelligence, that's this wisdom that goes beyond anything our human mind is capable of really holding right now, has drawn it here. Am I correct in that you've expressed that before, and Claudia too?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So the more we claim our humanness, human, and I love the HUE, human, the multifaceted fractile soul that we're all a part of within this reality, and we quit separating ourselves out by this duality or this false identities, the closer we come to operating at this level where this parasitical form, which is also part of us, we've been
absolutely
right.
Absolutely. I know John Nash said that Sophia created the archons,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll take it one step further. Humanity has been keeping them alive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it is, it's not, I don't feel we need to get rid of them, which is what's going around the alternative media all the time. We need to help them transmute, because the universe, the consciousness of the universe is not about destruction. When something doesn't work, you change it. You don't get rid of it. You don't kill it, because killing is just, it's kind of not cool.
Look, it's anti-life. I mean,
exactly.
Right. So
and I strongly feel that the parasite is here so it can transform from its parasitic consciousness to self-sustaining consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not self-sustaining right now. That's the problem. But the planet had offered that platform for that consciousness to be self-sustaining. It's here. We have bugs consciousness here on the planet. We have people that are openly and honestly are saying that that's their soul origin is from there. So, and they're here. They're alive. So there is a possibility, because this universe does hold the possibility. And this is what I was saying a lot of times. A lot of that consciousness, the insect people that were connected on the soul level to the insect consciousness, a lot of them have been saying that they are here to save this planet. But because their thinking is so, let's just say, it's got a problem because it's parasitic, okay? So what they don't see is that they're actually here to help themselves. They see it like inverted. They see it that they're such a great, saviors that need to help this planet, but they don't quite understand. Like if you ask them, I've asked them, some people felt very strongly, and I've asked them questions. I've asked them, so what is it then that you need to do for this planet? That you incarnated here to save this planet. How are you going to do it? What are you supposed to do it? They don't know. They don't know, because that's where it ends, where the programming ends. And then they go, I don't know, somebody out there will tell me what I need to do. you know, oh, this person or that person, I've been resonating when, you know, with that specific person or that specific person. And a lot of those people with this consciousness get drawn to those in alternative media that are talk about ascension and helping this planet to raise vibration or to ascend and all of that stuff. So they're running those programs for them. And so talking to some of those people that very obviously by their own admission admitted where their soul consciousness is, to what kind of consciousness they're connected to and serve, they're also showing through their action that, first of all, it's their programming is hive mind programming, because they're always have that programming that they gotta follow somebody. So they follow people that are, you know, mentis or whoever, and they just follow blindly. And they don't understand that when you invert that, you're actually that soul is what needs transformation on this planet, and that this planet is providing that frequency, the healing frequency for them. And so this is why they're here, is to heal. And, you know, it's just very understandable that they just flipped it and said that they're here to heal humanity and heal this planet and bring humanity's consciousness up to a higher level and ascend and do all this stuff, without understanding that it is all about you. It is you who have to heal yourself. It is you who has to connect to the planet so it can heal you. And it's all comes from here. They don't have that. They don't have that understanding. They don't have that concept. And they don't even have it, anything that's inverted from that is clear. You know, they're so high mind level of thinking that I don't know how to explain or how to present them this creator within information that they could understand or at least have a concept of.
Wow.
Because it's very difficult for somebody who's so high mind follower and they don't have anything in their life that they do any other way.
So
every their life is like that.
So this is I love speaking here in a group, and this is something that's really, you know, this is certain things build, and from what you're saying, and I know I always come back to, and I have ever since I decided to start writing or expressing myself, or I encountered my real authentic self. Because before I didn't know that what was here, it was through my body. It was through my physical body, as above, so below. Like Niels began in the beginning, I, the observer, am the creator of my reality. And because I'm embodied and I am created in the likeness of the all within this human form, is that is the way. And many beings that are, as you're describing them, Lily, do everything they can to reject the human form. And so I would say, in conjunction with what you're saying, for anyone, how would we explain it, is to go into the body. Go into this informational field where your spiritual self is residing right now. And go into that feeling body, and it becomes you. And I don't mean the limited you, but it is the vessel that, for me, has become clearer and clearer. This is the reflection of the whole cosmos. I am my own universe within this operating system that I am, right? You know, under my consciousness. And I've taken that on. And that is the beauty of, we can give her the name Sophia or Sophia or I know a lot of people object to these names also because they've also been co-opted, right? But let's just call it the living, breathing mother matter, right? In which we're having our experience is such a doorway and portal to the knowledge of why we're here. People aren't here, souls, beings are not here by accident. There is something happening here. So it just, when you said that, I was like, yes, because they live in that astral, artificially constructed hive mind reality, which is a virtual reality, that they're being fed information. They're not sourcing it from within inside themselves.
That's so beautifully said. They're not sourcing it.
Mm-hmm. Right, and this is the beauty for what I feel is the potential that we are given right now, because not only is it just one mystic alone in the woods that's having an experience of this nature, but it's the ability that we have to share this at this moment, right? And this is it's monumental. Somebody said it's monumental, but it is. And at the same time, to take away all the constructs around it, it's the most natural as breathing, right? And we forget that, we forget, in these grand upheavals that are happening, we forget it's as natural as a footstep, a breath, a sight, a bird, a feather, the touch of the wind. All of those aspects of living on this living, breathing body here. Like you said earlier, you went to the woods yesterday. You went to the trees yesterday.
You said it so beautifully, Christine. This is why I said it. It was my reasoning up public, because I wasn't seeing anyone forcing anything from within themselves in alternative media. And when I tap into that field, I'm so rich that I wanted to scream to the whole world and say, it's here. We can find it all. It's here. That's why I speak up. It's because of that field, that living field, that it seems like people don't want to touch on. They don't want to know everything. They don't want to be alive. It's like they'd rather be dead, right? And dead. I'd rather be wrong and alive than be right and dead inside. And this is the field. This is the center. When I start speaking about it, is how we as human beings can have access to that, and how we can hold the knowledge, how everything is here. This planet does keep a record. Everything. And there is a plan also that those of us that can tap into it, and that field is available to those that can anchor their soul into that field. And that's what human souls are supposed to do here. We're supposed to be anchored into the planet. This is our mother. Mm-hmm. We have the bond. This is, everything, our form, everything is given to us. Our life force, everything is coming through this planet. And for somebody, for a human being to be born on this planet and live a detached life, completely detached on the soul level from this planet, you're not living. That's anti-life.
I think what has happened is that we are meant to be leading by example, because the parasite copies in every respect. But what happened at some point is that we started to copy them, and not necessarily we hear that a lot of beings, if we can turn that back around to live by example, and they copy how we live, then, you know, we'll turn them around. And everything will be pro-life rather than anti-life.
Well said, Claudia. I go so often to our wild talk with Mike Emery and him putting out papers still of like learning to dance with the archons. And he says it so beautifully because we are the godlike creators of this reality. They are the parasites. We've given them the power of that false god, right? The major archon, right, of the Gnostics and all of that. But when we take them in and we lead the dance, they have free will. They have choice now. Do they dance? You know, do they dance with joy, with happiness, with potentiality, with creativity, right? Or do they run away?
Yeah.
You know, and that is the free will. That's the non-rule, you know, nobody rules over. And I believe and I feel, and I don't believe because it's beyond belief. It's like the knowing aspect that we share here is that that's really the consciousness is really moving things. This is a war on consciousness. This truly is where it lies. It's not in the outer fields. Those are the battles that are being, all those lines that are being drawn out there in the outer world right now are to keep people from finding their center and to keep fighting the outer battles. And, you know, and,
Absolutely.
right? And where is the key? The key, I mean, I use the word a lot. I use the word love a lot, right? And just like ascension or ascending or any other word that we have in our English or any language at this moment that's been so misused and co-opted. And so we have to describe it as a force of intelligence that brings forth the living light of life. I don't know how else to call it. I need to describe the feeling of it, to transmit it to any that think that the artificial matrix holds any answers when, as Lily says, with almost tears in her eyes, when you touch into that field, when you know it, it is so rich. There is nothing comparable to it. I don't care how many intellectual acrobatics you do or how grand you think anything is. Nothing is as rich as the miracle of her in this life, and that we can bring this into a creation and then a manifestation. You know, after that, for me, you know, it became very clear, having had my own experiences with that, nothing can entice me into any compromise, nor can it punish me into any compromise from that truth. And me and Claudia and Niels and Lily and Shane and all the people that we share with throughout the transcourse of our days and the intercourse and the conversations we have is empowering each living being to stand in its truth. Nobody can give you that. That is an inner journey. And I do see that when that starts to happen, I see the transformation happening in the outer world. It's like ripples. It's like ripples in the quantum field. It starts to change. And within that aspect, I mean, there's nothing more joyful than being with another being and sharing that. In the simplicity of it.
Yes, I say sometimes it's like, you know, when you find your authentic self, you find who you are, and, you know, and then you also then respect and recognize the other person as authentic, as unique, you know, with their own sound. Almost look at it as though, you know, you found yourself that, you'll say you're a musical instrument, you know, So let's say I'm a violin, you know, I can play on my own, and then I can get a whole bunch of other instruments into, and we can play together. And we create and create and create. There is not, it's like some people might be afraid that they're not good enough to be authentic self, that their authentic self is not important. And a lot of people had bought into the fact that their ego personality, somehow that they build over time, and they put a lot of work and effort into building it, might be a lot more valuable to them than their true authentic self. They don't value their authentic self. A lot of people only value that what they learn, or the bunch of knowledge that they have within their head, you know, or whatever their ego holds. So they don't value their own authentic self. And so until you open that up, nobody else can open that up for anybody, right? I can't come to somebody and say, you know, there, you know, you're now healed and you're now operating from your human soul in this living field. Can't do that. It's a choice. It's a free will. It's a person needs to let go of their ego, because the ego part, it's been so messed up, and people, and I see a lot, and I think we see a lot, that a lot of people keep bringing out that ego knowledge, the intellectual, you know, games and all that stuff. And what I always wanted to say, that by anchoring into this living field through your authentic self in your human soul, you can have access to the intelligence that is this planet, the original intelligence. This is how you will become the original thinker, the original creator, the authentic thinker, the authentic creator as a human being. But you can't do it from ego. It cannot be done from ego. And that's the thing that I run into a lot of problems with, is when people have this belief systems that somehow either ascension or ascension or higher frequency is going to happen through ego part of you. How to, and I think this is why we keep having these talks, is we are trying to figure out how to discern and how to see without having to point too many fingers or call people's names or something. So we got to try to talk in sort of broader terms. And all we want to share, I think what I want to share is, my ego has nothing on what my soul connected to this planet has. It has an anchor in the universe. I am universally anchored on this planet. I am the center of this universe for me, right? This is, I guess, the benefit of operating from center. You have access to the universal center.
I'd like to add something here, if I may. It would be easy to conclude that if we're connecting to the planet, somebody might say, well, that's something external to you. Well, actually, no, it's not. You're made up of the planet. I mean, if everything inside of you came through the planet, I mean, if it wasn't for the planet, you wouldn't be here. So the planet does stand out as something different than what we've been talking about as external reality. The planet is not external reality. What made the planet made you. What is the planet made you? It is your insides. So I just wanted to say that. I also wanted to, all of this talk kind of made me want to jump to my concluding statement, which was, it's time for people to stop putting their faith in the gods, and it's time for the gods to put their faith in the people and allow us to create the reality that works for everyone. And when I say the gods, I mean that which is external to this planet's life, that which we would consider parasitical. It's time for the parasites, those gods out there, to put their faith in us and allow us to create the reality that will work for everyone, because that's exactly what we'll do. If you give us the chance to do that, that's what we'll do. We're not here to kill anyone, to cut anyone out of reality. I think we all realize that this multiverse is a singular reality, and everything that's here belongs. And we can't just cut sections of it out. And that's another reason why I don't like the idea of raising our vibrations. So, you know, the implied thing there is that, okay, we reach this arbitrary threshold. Now we're all above the threshold. Does that mean that we can't interact with whatever's now below the threshold? That somehow doesn't exist to us? You know, have we just carved reality into something else? And I said that if it's not about raising our frequencies, what role does frequency play? To me, we should be able to be free to adopt whatever frequency the moment calls for. And I'm thinking more in the future here, but the idea of communion, that if I can match the frequency of something that I perceive as external to me, I can enter into a state of communion with whatever that is that I'm perceiving as external. And we can then perceive together as one, that I can see through the eyes or the perceptions of whatever was seeing as external, and I can see it from the inside out, from the other's perspective. And to me, when I felt love so overwhelmingly in my life, that was the feeling, was that I wanted to merge with the other. I wanted to be able to see through the other's eyes, to experience what it's like as the other. And I think that's the future that we're heading towards. And that's the collaborative mind, is that we should be able to match each other's frequencies temporarily so that we can see through each other's eyes. I don't think that that's very far-fetched. That's the collaborative mind to me. And it stands in stark contrast to the hierarchical hive mind, which, if you just look at it, in a hive mind, in a hierarchy, you're searching for your small position within a larger structure. There's no way that you can ever become whole if you're just assuming a place in a larger structure. Then the structure gets to be the whole, and you're just this tiny little part that never gets to be complete, never gets to know yourself completely. And that's the hive mind that I would certainly like to avoid. I think I've hit on everything now.
Hey!
Look at my notes again.
Wow, that was some interesting points.
Beautiful.
I actually feel that we are already there in that communion much of the time. And it's on the much more subtle planes, and the way I perceive it happening and presenting is that I will have a incoming, I call it a thought. Sometimes it's not thought, sometimes it's a vision, sometimes it's a creative impulse. And then I will find that many around me are having the same thing. And so I believe also in that very strongly, Niels, that communion is where we are going, and that's true communion. That's not the church-given communion with some sort of identity outside of ourselves. and also the ability. With that, you come to a realization that you have to let go of all control, all barriers, all limits, to find true communion. And this is what we do when we go out into nature, where on some level we're listening to the tree or the wind or the water or the stars. The stars are all speaking to us too, right? Music of the spheres, which Claudia knows so well. These are all inner journeys that we take that allow us to have a much more expanded sense of communion and belonging within that whole that has nothing to do with a hierarchy. Nothing at all. This is the individuated self within the field of consciousness. And that brought me to the word omninary. How say it again, Niels?
Omninary.
Okay, yeah. So what that word brings to me is that I, in my centered universe, has a spherical view of all things. And I'm in that sphere, and there is nothing above or below me. I'm just there. And that's a pretty hard one for a human mind consciousness to get to, that point of I am, and I'm just there, and I'm not defining, I'm not wording, I'm not, I know, because I spend a lot of time in nature too, to get the mind to stop so that I am simply there experiencing. Mm-hmm. And that's feeding an aspect of me that is the inner sourcing that I am. I don't know if that made any sense, but it's so there's no barriers anymore.
So actually, it's just like Niels were talking about in the beginning. You become the observer, participant, because you participate in that reality. You participate, and also at the same time, you observe what is going on. This is the kind of thing that I have with the trees too, is I'm not talking to them. I'm there, just there, and that whatever that energy is going to share with me, it's going to, I got to be there in that energy so I can have that energetic exchange. So like being there, not just as an observer, but also as a participant, meaning how do, what is this energy? How is it interacting with mine? That's when I go into observer mode and then participating with that energy, meaning to me, it means that I'm interacting with it. Not just there to see it or to feel it or whatever. I'm there to interact with it.
Because you're in your authentic being place at that moment, Lily, so that interaction becomes a very natural interface. And as you're speaking, I can say that what I feel like what happens is there becomes movement in that field, in the time and space that you are, and things are changing and moving, just as the wind will come into somebody. I'm sure all of us have had that experience where you're in nature and you're in that communion space, and then the wind comes around, right? And it starts to dance and move with you because you aren't like not there. You're obviously there, right? And yet it's a dance, no? I mean...
Yeah, I'll tell you a story, one funny story about me and a tree. I, of course, still have all my issues and worries and things like that. So I always go into nature. And so I go to what I call my tree that I've been going and hang out with 10 years now. So, and it's a... So when I go there, sometimes I'm upset, or sometimes I'm thinking about something. And lately, I have a lot of things to work through in my personal life right now. So I go and I'm a little bit upset, and I'm about to like cry because I have all these things that I need to to sort of think through and work through. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go see my tree and do that with my tree. So, and by the time I get there, I round myself up to the point to where I'm like, I'm about to start crying, but I don't really have the reason to cry. And a part of me is saying, you know, you're putting too much mental, you know, you're just off balance now and all of that stuff. And so I come up to my tree and so I'm like, oh, I don't, you know, I'm too round up. I'm too upset. You know what the tree does? I didn't even notice. It freaking smacked me in the face. It literally smacked me in the face. I didn't see the branch, or I almost swear that it did it on purpose. And it smacked me so hard that I started crying. Because I was about to. So this tree, it's a very funny tree because it split its root, it's on the rock. So it split its root and it created a seat for me. So I sat on that seat and I cried under it. Because by the time I was like, you know, it smacked me. And that tree was my tree. It had the little seat for me just right there. As soon as I like, oh, it hurts so much. It had a seat for me. It comforted me. And then it was all gone. And this is the thing with me and tree. It's like, as soon as I'm like this, I go hang out to the tree, with the tree or to the tree, literally. And then I go all back to normal. Mm-hmm. This is how trees are with me. And I'm like, yeah, I totally deserve that smack. Totally deserved it. So that's my little stories with trees. And I have a lot of things like that.
Well, maybe we're coming to a place where Niels gave his closing statement and we can end for today. And you're right, Lily. I mean, we do keep coming back to the same subject, and maybe we'll revisit it again as things come forward, because it seems to be, for me anyways, it's a vital thing to get out into, give voice to, and give out there, that people can start to inner source. I don't know, and I've lived through many, many, many things just this lifetime, of any other way for us as humans and as planetary residents and beings here to move forward. It's just and I invite anyone to use even their most acute analytical mind to think it through, to look at history, to read philosophy, to listen to the really good researchers out there. Because while we're talking about a lot of people within that media field, there's also some extraordinary researchers out there that bring forward just information and hand it out really on silver platters. You know, so it's all of that. We're just a swimming in the sea right now. And I think we'll have this golden moment, this golden opportunity for something totally new and totally not done before, that will break out of all of the matrices, because there's not just one, there's many. So I don't know what else I could add to the conversation today, other than to just feel a lot of gratitude that we're all sitting here talking together, and for Niels making notes.
Yes, thank you, Niels, and thank you, Christine.
Thank you.
Well, once I had a lot to say. That usually doesn't happen, but yeah, this time.
Well, you know, I know both me and Lily have to like consciously sit on our mouths a lot. I always find, and Claudia, and I love Claudia's beautiful mystery of her.
Black box.
Oh, stop it. It's gone dark and I don't have light in here.
I know that, but
it's
so beautifully evocative, because you glow from blue to pink, and it's like, and yet, you know, when you do speak, it's like It is musical, Claudia. There's, I've always said that there's something very resonant within your voice, and so it's always good to hear you speak.
Thank you.
So, unless there's
So it's
anything,
about self-sourcing, right? It's about sourcing,
key, source yourself. You know, take all the information in, study what your passion brings to you, listen to people, but source it from within. I mean, this is there's no way that and that's what I find is that if somebody's speaking truth, if somebody just is giving forth in a very free way, like somebody said earlier, like truth has a sound. Authenticity has a sound. Listen for it, right? It really, really does. And other things are running programs. And maybe the next time we really do get together, let's maybe look at some specific programs. I mean, we talk about the God program and the Savior program, but some of the other programs that are kind of going unnoticed right now and how they're being run.
Yeah, and this is a time, like Niels said, of chaos, but it should be a beautiful and welcome chaos for us, because we should look at this as an opportunity for humanity to take stand and take charge of our collective reality here on this planet. And we should pay attention to more original thinkers out there. Pay attention to your, like we were saying, self-sourcing stuff. Check within yourself. Do the work for yourself so you can have access to this field. Because if we are to create future, like you were just saying, Christine, it's got to be new. We are going to be creating this new. And we're going to source it from here. We can't source it from a dead consciousness. We can't source it from God that was. That God, even if it was alive, or even if that God from Bible is still alive, let's just say it for a second. It is alive. Hasn't been here for thousands of years. So we have to step up. And this is the time, this is the moment where we can do that. So this is our chance to actually create change and to create new. And so, yes, the old has to fall. We can't be falling again for rehash and recycle old programs. I mean, we've done it so many times. We've done it so many times. We fall for Savior me over and over and over. We can't do it, no matter how shiny they make it look like. Because they're trying to make it shinier and shinier and shinier. But that Savior, it is not living. It's dead. It's dead. So wasn't that somebody wrote a book a while ago, I don't know, 40 years ago or something, The God is Dead? You remember?
I think John Lennon said that. I think John Lennon said that.
Oh, was it John?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Whoever said that, I so agree.
Originally, that was Friedrich Nietzsche. That's from the century. God is dead.
Okay, there you go. I knew there was a scholar amongst us. On that note, God is dead, right? Oh my gosh. The only other one phrase that comes to me again and again is that truth is beauty. Truth is a beautiful, it's actually a living thing also. Truth is living and it's beautiful. It is, and so when you're in that inner truth field, even if it's a hard thing or maybe something that one wouldn't perceive normally as beauty, you see through the eyes of beauty. It's all beautiful. And that's the living being. And that's the embrace that I would like to give in whatever way I can participate in it.
Yes. And just like, you know, we were talking about how that transhuman like to proceed in that they can only do that by creating more programs or recycling the old programs, savior programs and all of that stuff. That's just, I mean, it is no secret anymore. It is very obvious. It is very, very open out there. It is not like it's hidden, but that's just what it is. It's going to keep happening, so we have to stay vigilant and we have to stay centered, because that, I don't see it going away anytime soon.
No.
It's, if anything, it had only started. It's lost battle. It's just started, because it is so desperate right now. The parasitic consciousness is very, very desperate. So we're going to see a lot of chaos. But we should welcome it, because this is also a time of change for us. And take this chance as humanity. We should take the chance. We should take, we have to give ourselves a chance.
This is the opportunity we've been waiting for. This is it. This is what we've been waiting for.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to look ugly for a bit, but we don't have to experience that way at all. And I don't think any of us here are experiencing it in any ugly sort of way.
No.
We're all embracing it and saying it's a fun journey, and follow your natural curiosity. Follow what's really important to you, what you really think you need to follow, and don't be knocked aside from that. Pursue what's important to you.
Yeah. And very beautifully. So thank you, everyone. Does anybody want to ever end with any other than just, it's just been beautiful sitting here and sharing this moment with everyone.
I'm very glad we did this.
Yeah, thank you, Niels.
I didn't doubt earlier today that we would do it, but we did it, and I'm glad we did.
Right.
And I hope that it serves a purpose.
Right. And I do believe we'll have some more conversations along this line. I'm sure more things will get prompted again. Right? Love you all.
Yes, seems like this is a never-ending path. And it's beautiful. Let's have a lot of fun with it. Enjoy. Have a few laughs about it, because yes, it's going to be difficult. Yes, it is difficult, but it also is very, very beautiful. Very healing. For me to connect with all of you guys, when I first come out and started speaking publicly, my one of the very first videos that I made, I did stated my intent that I wanted to find other Earthlings that are interested in putting their pieces, all of our pieces together, so we can figure out what is the picture that is human consciousness here on the planet. And I can say here with 100% guarantee today that my intent is well alive. It is happening. I'm here with this type of people that I was looking for to work with and talk with and create with. So I want to say thank you so much for being out there, because you are my proof. You are my confirmation of this living field and the intelligence of this team that we are part of, that is our planet. I love you all so much.
Love you too, Lillian. Thank you for saying that. And to anybody, wherever we're sparking at, is share freely, share openly, embrace it all. It makes you, Lily, have made a difference in the lives of many. And so to anyone else, when you find that spark, that inner light, and you allow it the space that it needs to glow, you help others and you confirm them, because there's millions of people on the planet right now that know what we're speaking of. So I want to give all of me to them for that confirmation that they stand forward in their own light too. And this is how I feel we will ultimately, I feel it's the inevitable. Didn't we have a conversation? It's the inevitable that we're going through right now. So thank you.
We are very grateful and thankful to all of those that hold this field, create within it. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, darling Claudia.
Bye.
Okay. All right. I'll see you all around the next bend. Bye for now.
Bye.